will be successful anyway at that part. Actually, doing things like this for Krishna, working for Krishna, means working for the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When you work for the satisfaction of Krishna or the spiritual master, they give you so much intelligence how to do things nicely for their satisfaction. And even though ordinarily we may not have so much intelligence, just by trying to satisfy the Lord and His pure devotee, just by trying to satisfy Srila Prabhupada, one will actually be able to get the mercy of Krishna so that one will be able to satisfy the Lord. The devotee prays to the Lord at first, "Please give me the ability to pray to you nicely." In the very beginning, one must get the ability to pray from the Lord Himself, who we are praying to. We are praying to Krishna. But our first prayer is, "Please help us to pray to you nicely. Give us the words by which we may praise you nicely." Now, a materialist may think this is very strange, that you are offering prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the first thing you do is ask Him to help praise you, to praise Krishna. In other words, we're asking Him for something, and then we're going to offer it back to Him. So this sounds very strange. But actually it's not strange, because we must get everything from Krishna. Everything comes from Krishna. All strength, all knowledge, all fame, all beauty, all wealth. Everything comes from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So if you wish to speak about Krishna, then the words must come from Krishna. Sarvasya chaham hridya nivisto mata smritya jnanam apohanam cha. Krishna says that all remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness comes from I, who am situated within the hearts of all the living entities. And Krishna also says, Purusham Nrishu. I am the ability in man. Being the ability in man, if you want to accomplish something for the satisfaction of the Lord, then you must get that energy to do it from the Lord Himself, because He's the one who gives the ability. The more one is surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the more ability he can receive from the Lord to accomplish those purposes which the Lord wishes to have accomplished. Furthermore, if Krishna wishes you to do something, then He will give you all the energy. But if Krishna wishes that you shall not do something, even if you are the most expert of experts in your particular field, then you fail if you are not satisfying the Supreme Lord. So it is a question of Krishna's desire and satisfaction and our desire, and how our desire can link up with the desire of Krishna so that we can actually satisfy Krishna. If we learn how to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then we will be satisfied. But if we try to satisfy ourselves independently, then we will never be satisfied. Therefore, we do not mind working day and night for the satisfaction of Krishna, because if He's satisfied, then it was all worth it. But if we work day and night and Krishna is not satisfied, in other words, we are doing it for our own sense gratification, then it's all a waste of time. The materialists, they work very hard day and night, all the time, for the satisfaction of their senses, and they're not satisfied. We are working hard for Krishna's satisfaction, therefore we are satisfied. So this very simple principle is very important for us to understand. How we may be satisfied by satisfying the Supreme. Very simple principle, but very deep. We were discussing this the other day in the Bhagavatam class. It's a very simple principle. You just satisfy Krishna, you are satisfied. But who understands it? Practically nobody. They understand satisfying themselves directly, not the indirect way. We are also not even working for self-satisfaction. That is also the pure devotee, not the pure devotee's goal. Ashlishava padaratam panastu mamadarshanam amatam karotu va yatatata hi vidadatu lampato matrananatastu saeva naparaha. Lord Chaitanya ultimately prays in his Shikshashtakam, the final verse. He says, my dear Lord, I do not mind if you make me broken-hearted by not appearing before me, or you crush me in your embrace. You are the supreme, my supreme, most worshipful Lord, unconditionally. Therefore, whatever you want, this is what will be, and I accept that. You are my most lovable Lord, unconditionally. This unconditional love is very, very difficult to attain. That means despite whatever is going on, despite whatever troubles or disturbances are there, the devotee says to the Lord, you are my Lord, and whatever you are putting me through, this is your mercy, and I shall simply tolerate that. Try to surrender to you more and more. And it is very difficult. Because sometimes Krishna will put us through tests which are extremely difficult. And we may have very hard time. Krishna may require we give up attachment to family, society, nation, all kinds of affairs of the material world. Krishna may require, and we may have to accept that. That is a test, because it is not that everything will work according to our own understanding. No. It is very difficult that the world shall work according to our understanding, because the world is much bigger than us. Therefore, sometimes things may happen which are above or over our heads, which are beyond our capacity to understand. Therefore, we should learn the art of surrender while we still have our good intelligence and good mind and good condition of heart and soul. Otherwise, if there's a little disturbance or agitation, we may not be able to surrender very nicely. Now things are all right. There's not so many problems. But maybe some condition comes with our many problems. Therefore, all that we have learned as far as surrendering to the Supreme will be tested at that time. Therefore, we should learn the art of surrendering now. For if we learn the art of surrendering now, we will not be disturbed by the conditions of the material world later on when it's much more difficult. Just like if you're never able to hear a class because your mind is spacing out. If somebody starts banging on the wall, you'll really never hear anything. Only those who are expert at listening to classes can actually hear the class, even despite all of this going on. And those expert at giving classes have to be expert to give a class despite all this going on. Actually, we're more inspired when this is all going on. So, it is a question of actually, not too much. It is a question of actually developing one's capacity to surrender to Krishna that we are working on here. To develop the capacity to surrender more and more, to serve more and more, despite all kinds of disturbing conditions which may be there. And then, by such sincere service and surrender, we'll be able to actually develop our Krishna consciousness in a very nice way. Now it is a little peaceful. Therefore, it's easier to understand. But that does not mean that the peace one feels will be the lasting quality. Any minute, they're going to start banging again. But then at that time, one will be disturbed again. So one should not be attached to the peaceful condition. If one is attached to the peaceful condition, then as soon as there's not a peaceful condition, immediately one is disturbed again. And one is only disturbed because he was attached to the peaceful condition. If one is not attached to peaceful conditions, when things are not peaceful, he won't be disturbed either. In that way, he's neither disturbed in happiness nor distress, or in peacefulness or agitation, or anything like that. Under all conditions and all circumstances, he'll be equal. Equanimity, this is called, sama. Equal in mind. He sees things equally, whether there be something very nice or something not very nice. He sees all things equally. This condition is a condition of having attained, in fact, the spiritual energy Brahman. When one can see things equally, good or bad, happiness or distress, pebbles or gold, with an equal eye, then he's actually developing some knowledge. Now there comes a point here, if somebody sees some pebbles or somebody sees some gold, if he says, oh, it doesn't matter, all right, that may be Brahminical, or according to the Brahmana platform of Brahman. But if one is a devotee of the Lord, and he sees some gold, then he says, let me use this in the service of the Lord. Let me use this gold in the service of the Lord. The stones I can also use in the service of the Lord. With the stones I can make some cement foundation somewhere. With the gold I can pay for the rest of the building. He sees these things only in terms of Krishna's service. He doesn't see, oh, I need some gold for me. He says, let me take it in Krishna's service. There's a nice story in this connection about Gaur Das Babaji, who he was blind, and he was very renounced. He just lived in a little hut by this bank of the river, and he never was concerned about anything material. But one day somebody gave 2 rupees to him. So he put that 2 rupees aside, right next to him, and every now and then he would check to see if it was still there. So 2 rupees is like 2 crowns. So this man, some rich man, had come to speak to him, and he thought that Gaur Das Babaji was attached to money because he was always trying to see if that money was still there, if somebody hadn't stolen it. But in fact, he was attached because the day before, some Vaishnava was in very great need for some money because he had nothing whatsoever. So he was thinking, let me give this to this Vaishnava who's in great need. So he was in anxiety for that devotee. So the materialist saw it in the wrong way. He saw he's attached to money. He didn't understand that he's attached to this so he can give it to this Vaishnava so he could survive. So devotee's anxiety is not for himself, but it's for others. Of course, to take care of oneself to a certain extent is important. You must do that. But in fact, the most important thing is to take care of others. That means the spiritual principle of preaching the Krishna consciousness movement all over the world. This principle is a transcendental principle, preaching the science of Krishna consciousness all over the world. And this transcendental principle is dependent on one's ability to see the welfare of others as more important than his own welfare. Or in fact, to see the welfare of others and his own welfare as intimately connected. Prabhupada used to say when it was time for preaching, he said, yes, preach. This will benefit others and you as well. By preaching to others, you are benefited. So, it is one of the nicest activities you can perform. Because not only is it for you, but it's for everybody else. So it's an entirely unselfish activity, although we are also benefited. So therefore our whole Krishna consciousness movement is based on the principle of preaching and working to establish nice communities and projects by which all people can come and find engagement in the devotional service of the Lord. Whatever their qualities may be, whatever their inclinations may be, whatever their desires may be, they will find shelter here in the devotional service of the Lord. Therefore, we are trying to expand this Krishna consciousness movement along these principles. Therefore we are working and endeavoring to build this place up a little bit, to give more and more facility for others to come and try and learn how to surrender to Krishna. So therefore we are requesting everybody's cooperation in this great endeavor, so we can all develop the ability to surrender to Krishna more and more, and go back home, back to Godhead, and bring many, many others with us as well. So I'd like to stop here because it's already 20 after 10. Put you all to bed, because in such a large group there's always some chaotic condition where one cannot get to sleep quickly. But try to take rest. Those who are still working, keep right on going. Those of you who are not working, don't worry about a few bangs here and there. It may be going on. And then tomorrow we will have a nice program, Sunday installation of their lordships. Okay, Hare Krishna.